Hi everyone. Today we have Abhishek Kothari. With a coveted IIT and ISB tag, he is a co-founder of FlexiLoans. He's the person who witnessed the global recession of 2008-2009, and he's a person who still was able to manage that recession, move out well, and now he's managing a company which has 250 employees. That's commendable. Thank you so much, Abhishek, for joining us. Let's first
Thank you,
talk
Ankit.
about the elephant in the room. Everybody, because of the current scenario, is working from home. I know managing a big team is a humongous task. How are you managing work-life balance as well as work from home? Is it a new normal?
Yes, it is a new normal. First of all, thank you, Ankit, for inviting me to this talk. And I'm very happy to be here and share my little bit of experiences from the last decade for the oncoming campus graduates and students. To your question, yes, it is a new normal. We're all adjusting to it. But I always have told myself, and I told everyone around me, that I think human mind is very powerful. While the physical boundaries are kind of blurring along in terms of when to start the day, when to end the day, is this a weekday or a weekend? Do I have to work today or not work today? But I think the way I have been approaching this in the last few weeks is to ensure that there are compartments in my mind and I have a priority order which is very clear. And there are many aspects to a day for anyone. It's family, it's work, it's your own time, it's about learning. And so I think there's some tricks that I do to kind of train my mind. So I make sure that I switch off my laptop at 7:30 and put that in the laptop bag, and kind of take it away from my observation area. That allows me to kind of defocus away from work and try to do other things. I ensure I read a few pages before I go to sleep. So that kind of keeps a little bit of the reading on. There are very specific time periods that I have for my update calls with the teams, with the large company, finding out time to make sure that I have personal priorities that I need to work on. But I think in a nutshell, what I'm doing is really living off my calendar. So if you were to kind of find my calendar, you would probably find my life in my calendar. And that's a good way for you to manage in the work from home times. Put a slot for everything and then just abide by it. I have time slot which say 30 minutes to think about the next 6 months priority. And those 30 minutes, I only think about that. And that's a good way to kind of train your mind to do what you're supposed to do.
I mean, that's awesome, Abhishek. I mean, you block your calendar to even think about few elements of the business or maybe personal stuff. You know what? I've been blocking my calendar only for the morning 2 hours, only just to ensure that I get up on time. I do my regular exercises and then some work, household work as well. But not every day I can follow it. So if you're actually following all the things that you've put in the calendar, that's commendable job.
Just add to that, Ankit. I have a 30-minute slot in my diary for Wednesdays and Sundays to clean the house. So that's how detailed it gets.
All right. So overall, Abhishek, you know how the COVID-19 is basically spreading, and each and every day we are sort of getting new numbers, new things with us, right? Many businesses have already been shut down, smaller ones, and you will basically agree with me that there is a huge loss of business overall from big companies to smaller companies and all. Some people are laying off people, some are cutting their salaries, the big ones as well. In your mind, do you think we are again going towards the recession, or we are still away from it?
And this is my personal view. I mean, everybody is going to have a different view on this. I think not going by the theoretical definition of what a recession is and when does it become really serious versus just an economic downturn. I think given the things are progressing, we are in it. If you fast forward life to 2025 and think when people look back to 2020 and this time, they will say that the world entered into a recession triggered by a virus. Then of course the time is only about when do we come out of it. But typically growth has been, there's been a decade long economic activity that was on the uprise, and that has been put to a stop. 30% of value has been eroded from stock markets. The jobs are being cut. There are deaths all over. There is still no cure. I think we will be too naive to think that it will all change in the next 2 months. This is much bigger and more serious than a typical economic downturn that you see, because you see a collapse of a bank out of the order. Those are short-term economic activities that kind of are held by the appropriate policies and bailouts. But here we're talking about nobody being able to predict what's tomorrow going to be. And naturally, this is, if you call it economic recession, it is that. I think there should be a new name for it, because typically in the past, recessions have been triggered by underlying foundational issues, whether it was a bubble, whether it was an unexpected value which was not real in the market. This is an activity that is triggered by a virus. It is not that the market is not sustainable. It's just that we are not able to do the daily activity today. So there should be a new name for it. I don't think it's a recession. I think it's somewhat to do with an external trigger which has led to an economic downturn. If we are not able to put a stop to it, it could lead to a recession. But we are in some sort of a recession even today.
And what do you think? Because last time you were at ISB when a global recession hit us. There was a huge hue and cry about placements, whether companies will sort of come for placements or not. This time, we already see many big firms canceling their offers in B schools. Uh, Given that whole scenario, and there have already been, loss of jobs that we already know of. Given the scenario, do you think it's it's going on a similar lines as what it was in 2008 and 2009 when it comes to people graduating out of these schools, or for that matter engineering colleges as well? Will that situation change?
I mean, when I look at 2008 and when we were graduating, this was back in the days 2008-9 when we were doing our MBA from ISB. And at that age, probably you live more in the present than in the past or the future. So there's a little bit of a silver lining that if I look back, I wasn't probably as stressed at that point as I am thinking about that time today. But yes, there are job cuts. There is less jobs in the market. Situation is comparable. The people are looking to hire less, pay less. But at the same time, if you look at it, 2009 to 18 has been an unprecedented growth in the market. So think of it this way, and this is how I thought of it: that you're entering the market where there's absolutely no more downside. There's only upside. There is not going to be any more shocks for the next 10 years. Just looking at the average cycle of a recession, once this is over, the next 10 years are going to be sorted. Also, I think it gives opportunity, uh, or it brings out various more opportunities in the market. When we graduated, there were no investment banking jobs. There were absolutely no finance jobs. So people who did MBA thinking that they would branch out into a finance career did not find the roles, but they found something else. They became great consultants. They became great entrepreneurs. And so I think this is all an opportunity. In the short term, I've always said that it's going to be a deterrent. In the short run, people are going to have less jobs, earn less, but it is the law of averages always prevails. So you will effectively have a spike. And 10 years later today, I don't. If I look back into my life, I don't think 2008 was the biggest event of my life. In fact, it was nothing. There are many more important things that we achieved in the last 10 years, which are of more value and importance.
What would you tell the guys who are actually in a dilemma what to do right now?
So there is going to be surplus talent in the market. There are thousands of students who graduate. There are thousands of people who are already employed, and there are going to be lesser jobs. So the simple mathematical equation is there's going to be surplus talent, and when the supply is more than demand, price of the goods go down. Okay, so we're all prepared for. At least everybody should be prepared for one thing, that what is going to pay off is not constant switching, not constant kind of negotiations, but really what do you deliver as a bottom line to the company. So it's going to be pure. There is no more bubble that's going to be there about people lining up on top of one another to hire a person. There, in pockets, it always going to be there, but as a general trend, it's not going to be there. So my suggestion to most of the people given this situation is, first of all, I think as a community, and it's not just students, it's you and me all put together, we need to reduce our spends. I'm going to give very practical advice. Okay, we all need to reduce our spends because uh, when you don't know or when the future is uncertain, you don't want to be in an over leveraged situation as a personal asset. So whether it is about spending on on things that you can do away with, whether it is simple things, and there are multiple articles going on around whether you can live in a smaller house, whether you can work from home, whether you can work from hometown. So all of those things will become reality. So and that's a good thing. I think that just spending your cutting your spending down by 30% is a great thing that will put you in a comfortable position. You're much more relaxed in your mind to be able to make practical decisions which are longer term rewarding in nature rather than short term rewarding in nature. I think the second thing which I have always told is, see, what a company pays you is directly proportional to the value that you bring to the company. Very simple. Now, the value that you bring to the company is a cumulative of the experience that you gain over years. It's not that point of time; it's the cumulative experience gain. Now, at this point of time, somebody is not able to pay the right value of that because the value that you're going to generate itself is truncated because of the market conditions. But if you forget to gain that experience today by not joining anywhere, that's the tremendous blow to your overall cumulative value. It's the power of compounding that goes down. So I could have earned 5 lakh rupees this year by working at a place, and I could have gained an experience which allows me to get to a 10 lakh job next year. Now, if I don't do this job today for 3 lakhs, which they're offering me today, then tomorrow I will not be able to get to the 10 lakh. I will be able to get to a 5 lakh when the market opens tomorrow because my skill set is the same as what it was T minus 2. And hence, I tell everyone that today the market is not being irrational by paying less. It's the situation of the market. And so just focus on experience, join wherever you can, do whatever you want to do. Don't worry about money at this point of time. Money will follow, but don't compromise on good experiences. And I say this with almost 100% confidence that we haven't solved all the world problems, right? And so there are problems out there. There are probably more problems than what they were. There are companies who are willing to solve those problems. They don't have a revenue cycle today, so they can't pay you. Join companies, work for them. There's no point sitting at home and looking for anything, but rather there's a problem out there. There's someone who's willing to solve it and give you resources to solve it. May not be able to pay you 100%, may be able to pay you 50%. Just do it. Don't overthink on salaries at this point of time. That's my long-term advice on the experience bit. And I think you categorized people into people who have certain kind of protection cover today versus those who don't. I think that there's another segment out there. There are people who have family businesses. And typically, I've seen a great bunch of guys at my IIT college or ISB. People who come from family businesses typically come to MBA schools and thinking that they would do something else for all the right reasons. I think this is also a time to go back and protect your family businesses and try to grow them, because a little bit of foundational protection will go a long way in terms of creating long-term value. And as I said, because demand is less than supply, wherever you think you can contribute by increasing the demand, is going to be a great thing. So go back to your family businesses, employ 5 people in your community, make a difference there. And if you do right things, then you would also be able to grow your family business and make more money than what you would make otherwise in a career today. So for the next 3-4 years, those are my practical advices in terms of how students can think and make best of just a bad hand that has been kind of served to them today.
The other aspect is that when you were talking about that, take up anything that comes your way, do you also think that a marketing guy should be open for, let's say, a job which is more operational, or an operational guy should also be looking at a consulting, or consulting guy should be also looking at operations? Do you think people should now have an open mind of just grabbing the best opportunity that comes their way rather than being sticky to their own perceptions, especially people who don't have experience?
So it's thin line between desperation and passion. Okay,
Mhm.
so I mean, typically it's a spectrum, right? I have seen people who would not compromise anything for just being in the space where they want to be. And typically you would see those kind of people still not kind of buckling down, but really doing more of what you said, entrepreneurship, start new things, start solving problems. But for a majority of people, I think because of our education system, India produces generalists. Okay, we don't produce specialists. Specialists are born out of jobs and pure, clear underlying passion of doing something in a certain category. And hence, I think broadly, what I would agree with you that if you have a general skill set of problem solving and you were thrown into kind of, I would look for operations job because I took 2 extra courses in operations. That doesn't, I think, we are all very flexible. Even today, I mean, if somebody was to pay me 2x the money and ask me to change my job, probably I would, right? Eventually, we are all driven for the right or wrong reasons by money. And here it's also the same yardstick that if you have a job that satisfies your primary objectives, gives you a respectable day and gives you money at the end of it, take it today, because experience in anything is far more valuable than time lost in the hope of something. You can always switch later. Markets, if support, then you could always do an MBA. If you are an undergrad, you could always do an MBA to switch careers. If you are an MBA grad, then typically you should anyways not be limited by a particular stream. You're supposed to eventually become PNL owners and do various things. So either way, I don't see a downside in doing something that you were not aiming to do 2 months ago. As long as it satisfies your basic passion and you don't be desperate, don't compromise on your long term career by completely switching from A to B. So if you want to be a data scientist, you may choose not to become a front end developer, but you may choose to be a back end developer because at least you understand back end algorithms and you would start learning about various optimizations and things like that, and eventually you would branch out into data science. So you just kind of play it in the adjacent field but not completely perpendicular.